Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I'm Marina, the crochet designer behind Bloodimaryart. Today's tutorial was really waited for as this is my take on the viral Taylor Swift dress. I've kept the same color palette and overall construction except for the sleeves, but I've added a few finishing touches to make it fit my own style. I hope you enjoy. Here are the supplies you'll need. A 4mm crochet hook plus a larger hook for the fringe if you have one, scissors, stitch markers, yarn needle, tape measure, 4 colors of DK or light worsted yarn. To match the suggested color palette, you'll need coral, lavender, caramel, and white or cream yarn. Since coral is the main color, you'll need more of it compared to the others. This design is made to measure, so I cannot provide an exact estimate of how much yarn you will need. However, for a size S, I recommend at least 600 grams, 990 meters or 1082 yards of the main color, including the fringe. For the main color, I've used hooked Somen in Corallo S022. It's a blend of 60% recycled cotton and 40% natural linen. While this yarn is lovely and I love the brand, it tends to split, which can be a bit tricky to work with. 150 grams or 255 meters or 280 yards of color A. Color A is hooked soft cotton DK in Granada Lavender. It's a blend of recycled cotton and other fibers. 150 grams, 315 meters, 345 yards of color B. Color B is Hobby Friends Cotton 86 in colorway 14, caramel brown. 120 grams or 250 meters or 290 yards of color C. Color C is a random unlabeled white yarn I had in my stash. I've chosen not to include a gauge swatch as some of you might use different yarns. To avoid confusion, especially for beginners, simply use your tape measure to check your progress and you'll be fine. If you prefer a written version of this tutorial, you can purchase a simplified written pattern on my website, Etsy or Ravelry. It's an affordable option that complements the video and supports my small business. Thank you so much. My overall measurements after blocking are the following. Total length 31.5 inches. Width 20 inches, sleeves 4 inches, neck opening 8 inches, armhole 8.5 inches. This pattern is made to measure, so feel free to adjust it to fit your own measurements. We'll start with the main color and a 4mm crochet hook by making a foundation single crochet chain, which is more elastic than a regular chain. Start with the slip knot and chain 2. Insert your hook into the first chain, pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through the first loop on the hook. This creates your beginning chain. Yarn over again and pull through the remaining 2 loops on the hook to form your first single crochet. For the next foundation single crochet stitch, insert your hook into the 2 loops created at the base of the previous stitch. Pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through the first loop on the hook. This is your new beginning chain. Yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops to complete the next single crochet stitch. Continue making foundation single crochet stitches until you reach your desired measurement. This measurement is the total length of your dress excluding the fringe. I made 112 stitches to achieve a 30-inch panel stretched, so the foundation chain should be about 3 inches shorter than your desired length, as the next rows and blocking will stretch the panel. Be sure to have a total stitch count that is a multiple of 3 plus 1, as this will be important for our pattern repeat. For row 1, chain 2, this counts as the first stitch. Work 1 double crochet into the very first stitch. Skip 2 stitches, then make 3 double crochet into the same stitch. Repeat this pattern, so skip 2 stitches, then make 3 double crochet into the same stitch until you reach the end of the row. To finish, place 2 double crochet into the last stitch. For row 2, chain 2, this counts as a stitch. Work 3 double crochet into the space between the groups of 3 double crochet from the previous row. Instead of working into individual stitches, place your hook into the space between the groups. Continue placing 3 double crochet into each of these spaces across the row. Finish with 1 double crochet into the top of the beginning chain 2. This may be a bit tricky to work into. For row 3, chain 2, again this counts as a stitch. Work 1 double crochet into the very first stitch. Then make 3 double crochet into each space between the groups of 3 double crochet from the previous row. Continue placing 3 double crochet into each space until the end of the row. Finish with 2 double crochet into the top of the beginning chain 2. As mentioned, your panel should be slightly shorter than your desired length at this stage, as it will stretch to the correct length when blocked. The pattern alternates between row 2 and row 3, so continue repeating these 2 rows until your panel reaches the desired width. Here's the color repeat to follow. As you'll be changing colors frequently, here's how to change color at the end of a row. When you're about to complete the last double crochet of the row, yarn over, insert the hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over again and pull through 2 loops. So you have completed half of the double crochet. Drop the current yarn and cut a tail. Pick up the new color, yarn over with the new color and pull through the remaining 2 loops to complete the stitch. Chain 2 with the new color and pull both yarn tails firmly to secure them. You'll sew these tails in later. Continue working as usual. When you reach the desired width for your panel, do not cut the yarn. Keep the yarn attached and use a stitch marker to mark the last stitch of the row, and then make another panel exactly the same way. I worked a total of 46 rows for each panel. Before joining the panels, block them to open up the fibers and shape the length as mentioned earlier. My preferred method is steam blocking. I use pins to shape the panels and hold them in place, then apply steam to relax the fibers and set the shape. Now on to the most tedious part, weaving in the ends. I like to make a double knot with 2 tails at a time to secure them, then weave the remaining yarn into the back of the work to ensure everything is secure. Now that all the yarn tails are secured, it's time to crochet a single crochet edge all around the top of the panels where the head will go through to make seaming easier. Grab the active loop you marked with the stitch marker before and chain 1. To create a neat and even edge, work single crochet stitches around the top of each panel. As you work along the sides, insert your hook into the side of each double crochet row. To identify the side of a double crochet row, look for the vertical bars or posts of the double crochet stitches. The side of the row is where these bars stack up, forming a clear linear edge. Insert 1 single crochet where the double crochet originates, so the base of the row, and 1 single crochet in the middle length of the row. So my first stitch is where the next row should have originated from, so right in here. Then we have the middle length single crochet in here. And now a single crochet where the double crochet row originates from. And repeat this procedure until you reach the end of the panel. 2 single crochet per double crochet row. Once you reach the end of the panel, you will join it directly to the other panel. Make sure to grab the right side of the second panel and join it from the foundation chain. Work a single crochet stitch into the very first corner stitch and continue working as you did for the previous panel. When the second panel is complete, ensuring that the panels are not twisted, slip stitch into the very first single crochet you worked at the beginning. Chain 1. Lay the panels flat on a table with the wrong sides facing outward. Use a tape measure to determine the size of the head opening. Measure and mark the desired head opening size on both panels with a stitch marker. For example, I aimed for an 8-inch opening in the middle, making sure both sides are symmetrical. Align the two panels like a sandwich, matching each stitch on one side with a corresponding stitch on the other. Begin joining the panels by inserting a slip stitch into each pair of stitches. To do this, insert your hook into both loops of the stitches on both panels, yarn over and pull through both stitches. Continue pulling the yarn through the loop on your hook to complete the slip stitch. If you turn your work to the right side, you will see a neat and tidy seam. Continue slip stitch joining until you reach the stitch marker. Cut the yarn and fasten off. I'm using a slip stitch seaming because this is a beginner-friendly tutorial, but feel free to use any other method you like. Attach a new piece of yarn to the corner of the other side with a slip knot. Chain 1 and work one slip stitch into each pair of stitches on both sides until you reach the stitch marker. Cut the yarn and fasten off. Ensure that the head can pass through the opening and weave in any remaining ends. Once your head opening is complete, measure the desired size for your armholes using a tape measure as seen for the head opening. Count the stitches on both sides and use a stitch marker to mark where the armholes should start. I like my armholes to be about 8 inches wide. Once you are done, seam the sides of the top in the same way you did for the shoulder seam. I recommend starting from the bottom corner and working your way up to ensure an even seam. Attach a new piece of yarn to the corner with a slip knot. Chain 1 and work one slip stitch into each pair of stitches on both sides until you reach the stitch marker. Cut the yarn and fasten off. After joining the armholes, turn the dress right side out. Because of how the panels were joined, each sleeve will have one side with double crochet groups and one side with the foundation chain from the beginning of the panel. This ensures that both sleeves are symmetrical. Here's one of my completed sleeves. We decrease stitches to achieve a nice short sleeve. Please note that this method is not suitable for long sleeves, so if you want to make longer sleeves, you will need to make adjustment for the pattern. For row 1, we start by attaching the yarn at the bottom of the armhole where your armpit is with a slip knot. I'm using a different color here because of my color palette. Chain 3 instead of 2 to give yourself more room to work. This of course will be your first double crochet stitch, and work 2 double crochet into the same space. Make a group of 3 double crochet into each space between the double crochet groups. When you reach the shoulder join, you will have the foundation chain from the other panel, so work 3 double crochet into the stitch where the double crochet group originates. Repeat this by inserting 3 double crochet into each stitch where the double crochet groups originate from. Slip stitch into the top of the initial chain 3 from the beginning of the round. For row 2, we chain 3 and work 1 double crochet into the same stitch. Work a group of 3 double crochet into each space between the double crochet groups. Repeat all around. After the last double crochet group, slip stitch into the top of the initial chain 3. Change color here as well if needed. For row 3, chain 3 and work a group of 3 double crochet into the next space between double crochet groups. Repeat all around. After the last double crochet group, slip stitch into the top of the initial chain 3. Change color again if needed, while keeping the old color attached for future use, if that applies. Again, alternate between row 2 and row 3 as seen for the body panels, for as many rows as you like. Keep in mind that, as previously explained, the sleeves will gradually get smaller with each row. I completed a total of 8 rows. Once you have finished the desired number of rows, cut the yarn and fasten off. Repeat these steps on the other sleeve. Now it's time to add a single crochet edge to the hem of the dress to make it easier to add the fringes. Repeat the same procedure used for the top of the front and back panels. Weave in all loose yarn ends to tidy up your project. I chose to add long fringe to both the edges of the sleeves and the hem of the dress. If you prefer, you can skip this step or trim the fringe shorter later on. Use a flat object like a piece of cardboard or, in my case, a notebook to ensure your fringe is even in length. For example, if you want 6-inch fringe, choose an object that's approximately 6 inches tall. Hold the end of your yarn at the bottom edge of the notebook. Wrap the yarn around the notebook, keeping the wraps snug but not too tight. Wrap as many times as needed. Each wrap will create one piece of fringe. Once you have wrapped enough yarn, cut it at the bottom edge of the notebook where you started. Then slide your scissors under all the wrapped yarn at the top edge of the notebook and cut through them in one straight line. You will now have multiple pieces of yarn all the same length. Here I've used 2 strands together for each fringe for a chunkier effect. Fold a piece of yarn in half and insert your crochet hook into a stitch at the edge of your project. Pull the folded end of the yarn through the stitch to create a loop. Pull the loose ends through the loop and tighten to secure the fringe in place. Repeat this process for each piece of yarn. Wrap your yarn again around your cardboard or notebook if you need more fringe, of course. If you feel like, steam your fringes and trim the excess to make them all even, and you are done. I hope you like this tutorial. If yes, consider subscribing to my channel for future tutorials, and thanks so much for watching. See you next time.